Picture this, a 19-year-old kid standing on the deck of a ship in the pitch-black Atlantic, paying his own way, with his own king telling him flat out, no. He's not running from a war, he's running straight into one, and it ain't even his fight. Behind him, a mansion, a fortune, a last name that opens literally every door in France. Ahead of him, a country he's never even seen, fighting for something he's never actually lived, freedom. So why would a guy who had it all just walk away from it for total strangers? That's where this story kicks off. To get why a French nobleman would risk his neck for somebody else's revolution, we gotta rewind to a quiet estate out in Auvergne, France, where a kid named Gilbert de Motier grew up surrounded by women. His dad, a decorated military officer, got taken out by a British cannonball when Gilbert was barely 2. By 13, his mom and grandfather were gone too, leaving him one of the richest orphans in the country. And here's the thing, that kind of loss didn't break him, it just made him distant, a guy who inherited a fortune but never really felt like he fit in the fancy buttoned-up world that fortune bought him. That world was Versailles, powdered wigs, court gossip, and a rigid class system where your worth came from your bloodline, not what you actually did. Lafayette got married off at 16 into one of the most powerful families in France, handed a military commission, and basically set up to live a comfortable, do-nothing life. But something in him just wasn't having it. At a dinner in 1775, he overheard some officers talking about a rebellion kicking off across the ocean, 13 colonies going toe-to-toe with the British Empire. Everyone else at that table thought it was just interesting gossip. Lafayette thought it was his calling. Easy to write that off as some rich kid's fantasy, right? That's basically what King Louis XVI thought too. When Lafayette asked for permission to sail over and join the fight, the king shut it down. France wasn't ready to poke the bear that was Britain. So Lafayette pulled a straight-up power move, defied his king, bought his own ship on the low, and bounced out of France before anyone could catch him. This wasn't some rich kid chasing clout on daddy's money. This was a guy bankrolling his own trip into someone else's war. No paycheck, no guarantees, no promise he'd ever make it home. When Lafayette finally hit American shores in the summer of 1777, what he found was nothing like the polished European armies he'd grown up around. The Continental Army was hungry, ragged, straight-up under-equipped. Half these guys didn't even have proper uniforms, and yet he walks up and offers his services to Congress for free, no salary, nothing. That kind of move gets noticed fast, and it caught the eye of one guy in particular, General George Washington. Washington was an easy man to win over. He'd seen plenty of European officers roll in trying to buy rank with a fancy title and zero substance. Lafayette wasn't playing that game, and Washington clocked it almost immediately. Then, at the Battle of Brandywine in September 1777, Lafayette takes a hit in the leg and refuses to leave the field until his men are safe. Small moment, but it told Washington everything he needed to know about this kid's character. From that point on, something bigger than a battlefield alliance started forming. Washington, who never had a son of his own, basically adopted the guy. And Lafayette, who lost his dad before he could even remember his face, finally found that steady presence he'd been missing his whole life. But admiration doesn't win wars. That brutal winter of 1777 at Valley Forge, the Continental Army was straight up starving and freezing, on the verge of just falling apart. This is where the story could have ended, not with some dramatic loss on the battlefield, but with an army quietly crumbling from cold and hunger. Lafayette stuck it out with the regular soldiers, refused any special treatment his rank could have bought him. That winter taught him something no map or briefing ever could. Revolutions don't run on good intentions. They run on supplies, allies, and nations willing to bet real resources on someone else's fight.
So Lafayette does something wild. He sails back to France, the same kingdom he'd defied to leave in the first place, and uses his name, his charm, his family's connections to push the French court toward full-on backing the American cause. Risky move. France was technically still at peace with Britain, and going public with support meant war. But between Lafayette working the room and Benjamin Franklin's diplomacy already grinding away in Paris, they tipped the scale. France threw in ships, troops, money, a call that ended up deciding the whole war. When Lafayette came back to America, he wasn't some volunteer chasing glory anymore. He came back a trusted commander, leading real troops in Virginia against British General Cornwallis. And this is where everything builds to the moment people actually remember him for. In 1781, Lafayette's forces helped box Cornwallis in on the coast at Yorktown, pinned down on land, while a French naval fleet cut off any way out by sea. Lafayette didn't win Yorktown solo. It took American grit plus French firepower, the exact alliance he'd risked his neck twice to build. But without that secret ship in the dark, none of it happens. The surrender at Yorktown basically ended the war. When word of American independence reached Paris, the same guy who'd once been banned from leaving France came home a legend on 2 continents. He could have stopped right there and let the legend write itself. Instead, Lafayette took the ideals he fought for in America and brought them straight back to France, later helping write the Declaration of the Rights of Man, a document echoing the same language of freedom he watched get born on a foreign battlefield. So maybe the real question here isn't why some French aristocrat crossed an ocean to fight a war that wasn't his. Maybe the real question is this: how many of us, standing right at the edge of our own comfort zone, would actually make that same call, risk everything we've got for something we believe in more than ourselves?